everyone, I'm Deanna Corby with Deanna Corby Dressage. I'm a dressage trainer, instructor, competition judge, and USDF bronze medalist. Thanks so much for joining me today, and if it is your first time here, welcome to my equestrian YouTube channel where I film new content every Tuesday and Thursday. So be sure to look just below this video at the red subscribe button and click that button so you don't miss out. I mainly focus on horse training tips, rider position tips, and product reviews. And today's tip is going to be all about transitions. What to look for, how to make them. I'm going to show you some examples and why they're important. So transitions in between gaits. Let's just stick to basic walk, trot, canter. So transitions are important because it can set the tone for what you're about to do next, whether it be something special like a leg yield or going to the next gait, the higher gait, the slower gait. It can also show and test how much your horse is on your aid. So, for example, if you ask your horse to go from walk to trot and your horse says, huh? and doesn't really respond, probably asking your horse to go to canter or doing something even more difficult is going to be a big challenge. Asking your horse to go from trot to walk and slow down is also very telling on whether your horse is on your aids and obedient and showing willing cooperation to your half halt aids. And transitions are very important in your dressage tests. They are often judged individually, your transition from one gait to another. So transitions, riding good transitions every single time you make a change from one gait to another is going to be important for building good habits. So I'm going to show you some examples of a walk to trot transition, and I'm going to do the best I can here with Roman in activating the walk and making sure he is on my aid, making sure that he pushes off from the walk to the trot and trots with purpose right away. So I'll show you a couple of these examples and going from walk to trot and what you want to see, how the horse is using his back, how you can tell that he is on my very, very quiet aid. I'm not having to beg him to go faster. He's not bracing his back. The way I achieve that is to, like I said, activate the walk and make sure that he is walking and marching with a purpose. And then I train him over time to respond to my very light squeeze of leg. I kind of like surround his belly and lighten my seat and kind of ride with more intention rather than if you're just on a trail ride, you're not riding with any intention necessarily. So I ride with intention. I hug his barrel very lightly, and this is over the course of like a half a second or maybe 1 second before he responds and goes on into the trot with purpose. Now, I don't like to kick my horse into the trot or into the canter. I want to save my louder leg aids for something more important. Like if my horse were to blow me off and not go into the trot or into the canter, then yes, I might kick or use my whip or, you know, do something like that to make a bigger impression on him. But I always want to try and use as little aid as possible to get the maximum result. So if I'm walking with purpose and he's round and on the bit and he's marching nicely, then I should be able to just sort of close my legs very gently, almost like at my calf and ankle, and then ask him to trot right off. I want his first trot step to be as long as his 10th. So I don't want him to kind of be hesitant about the trot. I don't want him to shuffle into the trot. And I want him to just go right off into working trot, and I want it ideally to look the same in the first stride as it does in the 10th stride. So same thing pretty much in going from trot to canter or even walk to canter. I want to be able to apply my leg aid and sort of lighten my seat and ask and ride with more intention. I want to try and position, if I need to, my horse with my reins or engage his hind legs with my whip and position his body where I want it, more or less bend, rounder or not so round. I want to position his body, and I want to apply my very light aid in going from walk to canter or trot to canter, having him be round and still the same sort of on the aids alertness that he showed in just simply walk to trot. So I want the same thing, trot to canter or walk to canter. I want him to say yes ma'am when I just barely whisper. And this training takes a lot of time for your horse to develop good back strength and hind leg engagement, and it takes a lot of discipline from us to make sure that we always give our horse the chance to respond to our very light whispering type aid. And if that doesn't work, then you would go to plan B. But to use the lightest aid you can to try to get the maximum result will build good habits in going to transitions faster. So now let's talk about transitions going slower and going from, let's say, canter to trot. So in the canter, when I want to slow down to the trot, they say that this is one of the only times where he's ready, he's stretching, he's ready. They say that this is one of the only times when you go from canter to trot where you give your horse the aid and then you wait. So what I mean is, in the canter, as you'll see in this example, I'm marking the stride in the canter sort of with my seat, and I'm keeping him engaged with either my leg or my whip. I'm positioning his neck wherever I want him to be, like with my reins and with my body language. And then when I want to slow down, I sort of stiffen my seat and sort of hold my seat, no longer allowing my hips to go with him. And I sort of give a half halt aid, but it's so light. Again, we want to use as little aid as possible to get the maximum result. So I stiffen my seat, and usually that's just enough. That's all the horse needs to know to slow down to go from canter to trot. So as I feel like he's committing in going from canter to trot, I'll then put another energy aid on my leg or usually my whip so that he stays round. When a horse transitions down and they look like a giraffe, they become hollow in their back and they stick their head up. Then what? Stay awake! He scared himself.
He did.
I don't know what I did.
Nothing.
Just stay awake. Stay at least moderately awake. So when you stiffen your seat or give it a little half halt if you must, that is you telling your horse that you need to slow down to the trot gait. And then, as he hears you, which is hopefully, a millisecond later, obviously, as he hears you, then you put your gas pedal aids back on, your leg or your whip, gently so that he knows to not transition and look like a camel, so that he knows to keep his back high and his hind legs engaged. So the rule of thumb in the transitions, whether you're going faster or slower, is to try to keep your horse's back high, his hind legs engaged, and him being crisp to the aids. And of course, you need your aids to be as gentle, as light, as invisible as possible, because if you need to go to plan B, you don't want to have to be really super loud because you're asking your horse with loud aids already. So always try and whisper to your horse with your aids, your reins, your legs, your whip, as much as possible. And this takes a lot of discipline from us to be careful that we're not nagging with our aids. So we always want to try and keep our aids as light as possible, getting the maximum results so that we can keep our horse fresh and hot to the aids, the transitions down or up, and trying to keep the horse round. Something that I look for as a judge, a very particular transition, is when the horse goes from free walk to medium walk to trot. So what I'm looking for is if the horse is quite happy to do free walk and is no longer resistant to the aids and is relaxed, and then the horse gets put back together again into the medium walk and then to go into the trot. What I'm looking for is his responsiveness to be put back together again into the medium walk and into the trot. If I'm seeing that the horse, as a judge, if I'm seeing that the horse is becoming anxious or is becoming inverted and hollow, then I know that the rider is maybe has too loud of aids with the reins perhaps, and the rider's not training the horse to move from back to front and staying round, and the horse becomes perhaps anxious about the transitions and the rider's aids. So that's a really important tip from a dressage judge about a very special transition. It's very telling to us whether you're riding your transitions correctly and whether you're riding your horse as a whole correctly. And also, by the way, it's worth double the points. So it's worth spending some time investing into those two particular transitions and riding them correctly. Anyway, I hope this video helps you guys ride your transitions correctly. I hope you were able to see by the examples how important transitions are to the rest of your work and how they should be ridden. Keeping your horse round, using your seat aids, using as little aids as possible, and doing as much as you can from your seat, and honestly as little as possible with your reins, if at all possible. Anyway, I hope this helps you guys. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Be sure to like this video, share it, and if you have any questions at all, leave it in the comment section below. Thanks again for joining me today, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye!